have something in common. Dave lived at Harry for some time as the area principal at the school, and I was working down at Franz as the for Doc about that time. So we did find something in common. But today, Dave's going to be talking about 3 major climbs in South America, in Chile, some of them in Patagonia. We'll hear the details fairly shortly. He says here that he called this his lucky trip because at every turn he was dogged by good fortune. Frequently people coming back from the Andes talk about the bad luck. So you must be an optimist, Dave. And also to be an optimist to live in Harry, because from memory they had 3 fine days a year, I think.
Oh, Lord. Lots of
I also am pleased to see Stella Sweeney here tonight, and actually to be able to look at her, because I never saw you from the front. I was always behind you on the coast to coast, and I think 2 or 3 times you were in front of me. So nice to see you from the front.
Thanks, Bob.
And the other thing that interested me about Dave was that, and I hope he might consider giving a talk about it in the future, but he said in his later years, going in the footsteps of Arakwata Bill, up the Arakwata River, over the Olivine Ice Plateau, climbing Climax and Destiny, and over O'Leary Pass to the Joe and out the Cascade Saddle. What a trip. So let's hope we hear about that sometime in the future. So Dave, I'd like to thank you and your entourage for coming over from Hokitika, and over to you.
All mine, thank you. Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for giving up such a good day and trotting along to hear my ramblings. When my brother John invited me or asked me if I'd like to come and speak, I thought, why would anyone want to know ancient history like me, trundling off to the Andes for 41 years ago and doing some climbing, but then I was persuaded that I could make it reasonably interesting if I've got some photographs, so I have done that. I'd like to acknowledge Stella. Stella and I did some real gung-ho climbing in the head of the hooker in the early 70s. We'd reached a stage in our climbing where we'd look at a mountain and think, yeah, we could go through there. We didn't worry us very much whether it was an original or one of the trade routes, but we trotted along and did several climbs in there, finishing with a GT of Cook, and we also did some climbing in the inland course. So we've had some history together, and it's great to see you here today. And I'd also like to acknowledge Matt Grimes. When I was getting ready for this talk, I thought I'd better find out a bit about these mountains, how high they are and how far away they are, because in my mind, from Kauaiki to Cerro Castillo was about 3 hours of grinding along on a gravel road and probably about a couple of 100 k's. In fact, it's only 90 k's. And I better check the heights of those mountains. So I looked in there and boom, down there's mine name on Wikipedia. Third ascent, first original ascent of the couloir. Oh, that's a sort of fame of sorts. Also Stella and I, first ascent of the Sheila face of Dampier. So just a little ego trip. And the first ascent of Cerro Castillo was 4 Chilean students in '96. And the second ascent was Mick Graves, Tom Clarkson, Mike Searle, John McMawick and Lockie Duff. Well, that's apparently only Mick actually got to the top, but that was a New Zealand group 10 years later in '76. So, and it was great to find Mick here today and have a chat to him about what things were like in there. And then the third ascent was myself, Son Chil Cue, he put the first name last of the accordion, and Ljubo, Hansel and Tony Golnar, a couple of Yugoslav lads. So what this started this off was actually the Opera Club newsletter. I was teaching in Cheviot and head of the primary school up there, and the newsletter came in July 1982. Inviting a lot of articles was an invitation to apply to be New Zealand's representative at an international climbing meeting being run by the Andinismo Federation out of Santiago, and all you had to do was get yourself accredited by your organisation, which in this case was the Alpine Club, get yourself to Santiago, and then everything for the next 12 days would be looked after by the Andinismo Federation. And I glanced at it and thought, no, can't do that. I've got a little family too, I've got a big serious job, can't go rattling off over there. And Gladys happened to glance at it and she said, why don't you go? And I said, wow, do you really mean that? Well, I wouldn't just go for 12 days, you know. I'm an optimist. I said, well, I'll join up with some other climbers and I'll stay and do some good stuff after that. I don't know why anybody would expect to do that, in point of fact, but I'll go for 6 weeks through to Christmas. And so in due course, she said, no, you just inherited some money from your mum's estate. She would have loved you to do that sort of thing. Go and do it. So I applied, and I was the only applicant, which is probably why I was accepted. And I was supplied with some help in getting my visa and 2 or 3 copies of the Alpine Club's previous magazine to take along as a gift to the Andinismo Federation. And in due course, got my flights organised, and you had to go via Papiti in those days. You couldn't go direct, so you flew to Papiti. You had a day or 2 overnights there, and then you picked up a land Chile flight that took you to Easter Island, and you refueled there, and you did all your customs and visa stuff on Easter Island. So when we landed in Santiago, you could just walk straight out of the airport, and that all according to plan, except that when we took off for Easter Island, the plane lifted into the sky after the refueled, and then started flying in big circles, and they said, we've got a problem on the dashboard up here at front, we're going to ditch all the fuel and land again. So we duly dumped a huge quantity of fuel into the Pacific Ocean, landed again, quarter of an hour later, problem solved, filled it up with gas, and on we flew. And got to Santiago, made contact with the Alpine Club, and they said, well, you're all gathering at this place, which you can't see it a hell of a while, but this is the refuge, you know, the sports. How's that, Billy? Yes. Thank you. So this is the where we all gathered. I arrived on a Thursday, and the course was supposed to start on the following Monday. And we gradually came drifting in. The fellow in the middle was the Korean guy, Chil Cue. The lady on the right is Mariella. She's the vivacious and flirty and lovely proprietress of this government-run sports complex. So there were basketball teams out of the States, there were baseball teams from Colombia, there were people passing through Santiago on various sporting activities. We all gathered there gradually, and over the weekend the climbers all arrived. Monday, the first day of, the other thing I wanted to mention about Mariella, this is in the middle of the Pinochet regime, military dictatorship, which was brutal on anybody that stood against them. She said, we are sick of Pinochet, up to here! And she did a throat-slitting gesture, and she was vociferous in her, and to anyone who wanted to listen basically to what she thought of the regime, which I thought was fairly brave of her. But anyway, about Monday morning we all gathered, and the first day of the course opened, it was sign-on day, so everybody assembled and we all signed bits of paper saying that we would not hold the Andinismo Federation responsible if we were injured, that we would pay for our own rescue if we got into trouble, and all these other waivers and escape clauses, and then a few drinks are all right, and that's day 1. Day 2, and I've got to just get this going in the right direction. When I loaded my slides onto this chip, I loaded them back to front. Yes, day 2, this bus rocked up about 10 o'clock in the morning. All our gear was stacked on, and we drove 60 k's inland and slightly south of Santiago to the Cajon de Maipo and up to Lo Valdez, which is where we were going to be based for the duration of the climbing meeting. That was day 2, and That's Lo Valdez looking down. I was getting a bit stir crazy by then. I'd worked quite hard before I went to get myself reasonably fit. I'd gone and had a crack at Hillsville in August, and then I'd gone on the Alpine Club had sponsored a climbing meeting down at, climbing instruction course down at Aspiring, so a group of us had trundled up onto the Bono, dug a big snow cave and climbed avalanches, triggered off avalanches to see how to avoid them, and then climbed Aspiring by a fairly hair-raising ridge, a route between the full northwest ridge and the southwest ridge. There was a face in the route the way up through some filthy soft snow to the top that way. So this is Lo Valdez. There's a refugia element. This is where I was going to get it wrong, and I've just tried. There's a big mine here, so every now and then there was a huge series of explosions. I don't know what they were mining. I had a look the other day, but I couldn't find out. And this is Buenos Aires, which is the hot springs area over here. The third day, finally on the Wednesday, they're very apologetic. There's too much fresh snow, we can't use bows, but we're going to go up to Morado. So we packed our bags accordingly and wandered across and up this valley here, and on we went. And ahead of us was this beautiful looking thing, and I was just about drooling at the thought of having a crack at it. Two dogs from Buenos Aires accompanied us, scruffy little mongrels, all the way up to these rocks down the bottom here, where we dossed down for the night. Took us about 6 or 7 hours, I suppose. And the following morning, along with one of the dogs, we all set off up here, and through here, and up this gully, and I'm getting up onto the ridge crest and moving across and thinking, well, we're a bit late in the day, but it's not going to be hard. There was a glacier running between this peak here and the main peak. There was a little bit of an ice cliff which you'd easily work your way through, and then you'd be on this big snowfield here, 12,700 feet, so not beyond the bounds of possibility in a day, same sort of height as Cook, and not going to suffer from altitude. But when I got to about here, people started streaming back past me, and it turned out that what we were going to climb as an orientation climb was Morado South, this little bump there. And I have to say I was pretty disappointed. And that was the end of that. We all streamed off down and got down here. The dog went right to the top, thrashing its way up the footprints. I was worried for it because if it got it wrong, it was going to go a long way. And the next thing is the European contingent. There were, I must have jumped a slide because it's a picture, not there. Then I'll just shoot back and see if I can find it. Yeah, that's the one I jumped. This is the crew that assembled, give or take a few. So on the left-hand end, holding up the Johnny Walker bottle, is Hansel. And I'm not going to go through the rest of them because I don't know most of them. A bunch of Italians, some of them climbers and some of them just coming along for the ride. A bunch of Colombians have driven down, all the way down through Ecuador, through Peru and down northern Chile. Have driven all the way. And I very fondly remember them because we were rolling around Santiago in their Land Rover singing "Don't Cry for Me, Argentina," and the two Argentinians in the end said quietly, "You know, Argentina, we do not like that song." And these two on the end of the Tower Argentine guys, these two there, I think. And they were, that time with John Stanton and Brian Pooley and various others, probably in the CNC's expedition to Centennial expedition, because every time they saw me, they'd, "Oh, Dave, nice cerveza," more beer. So apparently Kiwis drink a lot, and it's well known. This one, I keep wanting to point at them. This one's Son Chil Cue, or Chil Cue Son, the Korean guy that I sort of teamed up with. He was there on his own, and this is Tony Golnar, who could eat more bread in one sitting than I've ever seen anyone chew through. But anyway, the others, there was one solitary Peruvian, there were a pair of Swiss, there were the two Yugoslavs, a big bunch of Italians. Yeah, that's about it, myself and Son. So that was, I think perhaps the reputation of the Pinochet regime had discouraged politically aware people from coming along. So they all decided that what I'd call the European contingent, they'd go up this thing. It's 19,700 feet. no acclimatisation. There was no bloody hope about me getting to the top of it, but I didn't think about that. We just took off up the hill. We climbed about 3,000 feet to about where this cursor is there above that knob, and we dossed down for the night. Second day, another 3,000 up to about here, about there, and had a second night. Third night day, I arrived at this little point here. It doesn't look far from the top, but it's physically quite a long distance. Dry retching, standing in front of the two Yugoslavs trying to spear but not able to. Head bursting, all the usual things that go with altitude. They were busy brewing up cooker, pulled it down. There was a slope like that. Oops, I just used the arrow. A slope like that ran all the way down another couple of thousand feet to Marmolejo Coal, and they just pointed that they were going down there, and I nodded my head and I beetled off down there as fast as I could. I figured the lower I got, the sooner I got, the better I was going to feel. I arrived out on Marmolejo Coal, found a big rock, stretched my foot, was close cell phone mat out, put my parka over my shoulders, and after having a beer I slept there on my own, and in the morning got up and peered all around and finally spotted a little orange tent way the hell in the distance, and we lumbered over there and kicked them into bed, and we made our way back down the valley and around through here and back to the base. And then I said to the guys that were organising it, when my nose stopped bleeding, I want to go back and climb Morado. And they said, no, you haven't got time. We've got one more day and then we take you back to Santiago on Friday. So I went rock climbing with the Colombians for the Thursday. That is interesting when you don't have any language in common and the guys disappeared and the rock's getting shorter and shorter. And we finally remember that nada mas means nothing more. You go, nada mas! And he stops and puts on the beer and let me go. But they were good blokes. And then we went back to Santiago, and at that point there was a closing ceremony, and Ljubo and Tony sidled up to me and said, hey, we're going down to Patagonia after this, and would you like to come? Oh, what do you do? Would I like to come? Yes, please. They were interesting. They were locked into the Yugoslav communist system, so they wanted to go and climb in the Caucasus, and in order to do so they had to qualify as international reps. They had a structured system, state-sponsored, where when you began climbing and you'd done some serious climbs, you would move up from being just a climber to being a regional rep. And when you'd been a regional rep for a while and you'd done some real tough climbs, you could become a national rep, and that was the level they were at. And so they wanted to do a really gung-ho climb so that they could move up to be international reps and be invited to join the Yugoslavian Caucasus expedition for the following year. And in fact, the last formal words I heard from them was a postcard from the heart of Russia saying, greetings, USS Yugoslavian Caucasus expedition. So they did make it on the basis of their climb of Cerro Castillo. I did get in touch with them when we were looking at going to Europe in 89? Yeah, 89. We were thinking of going over there and I wanted to make contact, and I wrote to them both, and I got a letter back from Tony saying, in Yugoslavia now is one big stink and don't bother coming, more or less. And of course the whole place fell apart within a few weeks or months after that. So that was the end of that. And then I got very sick. At the closing ceremony, I suspect someone was using tap water to water down the drinks. There was a lot of runs to the toilet, and they had organised, this is Lola and Tony, free rail passes from Santiago down to Peron, which is about 18 hours on a train. That was fine. The other thing I said was, look, if we're going to do this, I don't want throwing the rope, bring Son as well, and he agreed to come. I think I mentioned that. So the four of us were going. They beated off ahead of me on the Saturday, and I spent the day getting cramps and running backwards and forwards. Anyway, we won't dwell on that. We've all probably had to go up that at some stage. And then I was able to control things enough on the Sunday to hop on the train and follow on down. I arrived at Peron, and I had to organise my flight, which had been booked ahead. So I wandered into the TAC airline office, and the young lady at the desk said, no, please. And then she said, 1 minute, she rang, and quarter of an hour later, a young lad came in, about 17, I think he was. Sylvia, and good English, sorted out the ticket, and he says, where are you staying? And I said, I've got this thing from, when you get off the train, you get rushed by these touts from taxis and from hotels, all wanted to give you their, persuade you to go to their venue. So I had taken one of those, and she said, no, you come and stay with us. I go and pick my sister up in Waugh from the university. She finishes at 6. We'll go look around town, so we piled in the car, and he drove me all around Patagonia, sightseeing. So frightening to see what poverty can do to a country when there's no public welfare. There were people camped on the beach in plastic tents, a bamboo frame with plastic stretched over them. They were making a living by collecting seaweed, and half the road was taken up by drying seaweed, which they were then selling to Japanese buyers for making money, I suppose. And when I went to climb out of the car to get a photo, Sue, he said, no, you stay in the car, don't you get out here, this is not safe. So, yeah, that's what you do when there's no safety net, I guess. Then at 6 o'clock we picked Kenna up, and I've never told you this, but she was the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. I think she was just a lovely little chick, very, very nice natured, and wanted to take me sightseeing because she was studying tourism, so she took us out to the Petroway Falls. Now, Sarah had been driving us around town all day, all afternoon. We got a half an hour out towards the falls, and we got stopped by a police military roadblock. Kenna had taken over driving, and as we drove away after we'd been checked, then she said, that's lucky because Sylvia isn't allowed to drive, you can't get your licence till you're 18. So it's just a tricky little thing he did. And we were lucky to get away with it. So we stayed the night with his parents. His father had the airline concession to supply the in-flight meals for internal flights, so they took me out to the airport in the morning. And I was put between the pilot and co-pilot on the plane turned to karaoke, which was brilliant because we're flying over their equivalent of the Fiordland, and just beautiful to see. I had to keep the camera down low because as we were taking off, we were going to be taking off past a military base, and the pilot was adamant that if I brought the camera up and took photos, we'd probably be shot down. So that was very interesting, and we got to karaoke. Now, the Yugoslavians had been told to go and see the military headquarters in Karachi when they arrived, and they would be helped. So they walked up to the military base, and were told to bugger off. And they were walking down, they were very Slavic, these two boys. They were walking down the street feeling very down and showing it, and a gentleman walking parallel to him said, what's the matter, boys? And they said, what had happened? And he said, I am the director of sport for the 9th region, Senior Year. You're a sportsman, I will help you. So, being a friend and coming to stay, he put them up on a boarding hostel for agricultural college. And they stayed there. Next morning they came and met the plane with him, and he picked me up as well, took us to the supermarket. We did all the shopping on the fly, just filling up whatever we thought might be useful. And they wanted to take half a kilo of salt. I had a hard job persuading that would not be a useful thing to do. And various other things like that. Took us back to the agricultural college. The only thing I found difficult about that was that all of the toilets had failed, but the boys had kept using it. So it was full to the brim, pretty revolting. And then came next morning, he picked us up and drove us all the way down the highway. Well, it wasn't a highway, the Austral Caritas, the road that was there, to Villa Castillo. Disappeared into the village when we got to the school there. Came back half an hour later. You will be able to stay at the school for nothing. They will feed you. You will be met in the morning at 8 o'clock by your guide. He will have 3 horses and himself. You will pay him 300 pesos for each horse and 300 pesos for his own time. That amounted to 12 bucks. And he will guide you into the base camp for your climb. Now, when we went down the road, I'd been looking around at the hills, and it was not going through the Porter's Pass. It was sort of a low-rounded hills with a skip of snow here and there, and nothing very interesting, and thinking, getting more and more depressed, to be honest. This is going to be an absolute bummer. And then we came round the corner, and this is Cerro Castillo, the first view of it. The route we were aiming for was, I think, this couloir here. And that was quite a spectacular sight. To get to it, we had to go up this valley behind the ridge here, and round the corner and behind this big dome of old Cerro Penon, I suppose it is, to a campsite. And that was where Ferry, our guide, was going to take us the next day. So these are the two mountains that make up this group. The one on the left is Cerro Castillo, and on the right here is Cerro Penon, which has been climbed, well, judging by the size of the stone that's on top quite a few times. And then this is the actual village with Cerro Castillo sitting straight above it. Quite a spectacular setting and quite a spectacular landscape. And that's the village as it was then. The school is down this end here. It's the only modern building. Everything else is done in cedar shingles and pretty little clapboard buildings, but it's home for those people, and it's been very much changed. If you look online, it looks like a whole other village beside it. I don't know where. So that morning comes, and Furman, probably the smallest man I've ever seen, dressed in denim leather, or a cowboy, arrived and began to, all on time, put our gear together, and off we set. The horse nearest to the camera there has a proper pack carrying frame on it, and it's made of big bamboo and leather, and the pack sits inside there, and another one on top, and the other side folds back up. This horse over here just had a couple of straps around it, and found the road until we got to the end of the road, and then he hopped off and started to lead his horse. And Ljubo, on the strength of the fact that he had done military training in Yugoslavia and had to be a part of some cavalry and learned to ride horses, he hopped on. In the first half hour he got knocked off about 6 times because of low branches or because of this rubbish that the horse was trying to get through. And at that point he decided he had enough of it and got off, and Son hopped on the horse just as we transited from the burnt over bush edge into a virgin beech forest. Beech forest very similar to New Zealand beech forest. And then we sat there on the back of that horse for 6 hours, and we were having a hell of a battle because this one here, stop pointing, that horse there, every quarter of an hour or so, with just 2 ropes holding it, the load would slip, and my pack, the green one, would go under the horse's belly, and the horse would go completely ballistic and try and kick this thing out from under itself. I had the eggs in my pack too. We actually got 15 of them in the one barricade. So we were launching, undo the ropes, drop the packs off, settle the horse down, heave the pack stake up and tie them in place. And Son would sit there on the horse, Furman's horse, and we'd say, come on, give us a hand. Oh, good job, boy. And after 6 hours of it, I fell off the bloody horse. I had in the ride. Never ridden a horse in my life. That's us very, very well. And this was very like New Zealand beech horse. The understory and ground force stuff was not. I got on the horse and it walked. It went along okay, but then it had to go down and up a gully. And as it shot down the gully, I started to shoot over its head. And it was only the fact that Ljubo yelled out, "Feet forward!" that I was able to shoot my feet up and stop myself going A-over-K. And meantime, Son, this is little soul, and walked between 2 trees that were probably about just wide enough for him to get through. The rope finished, as far as he's concerned, at the back of his hand. The horse didn't exist behind him, so the horse walked straight in and crunch. We had to unrope it, take off the packs, back it out, reload it, round out and straight into a swamp. Straight down goes the horse up to its body, thrashing around, having a hell of a struggle, unload it, get it out of the swamp. And I did that 4 times, and then I said, get back on the bloody horse. Fortunately, we were only 5 minutes from there to our base camp, which was an absolutely idyllic little spot, There was a wee pool like a lake that had been filled, and we put our tents out there. And spent a couple of nights and a couple of days exploring. We went to the head of the valley. And this is looking across the Cerro Penon, and right on this one, when we did climb Penon, we came right into that valley, and then we worked out this icefield, shot up this little gully, round the top of here, and across to the top of Penon. I'll tell you the rest of that story later as we go. Meantime, we're looking at our objective, and this is it. So the following day, after a couple of days of rest and exploration and the river coming out of it, we made our way up through here. So just Morado and I with a big bag of gear each, and we took a dump of all the hardware, the ropes, the rock hammer and the bolt, cutting tools, anything heavy, lots of pitons and slings, and dumped it all in. Next morning, doing reasonably fine, so we made our way up there and out to about here, and we set up for the night. I have to admit that my gear was pretty primitive. I had a closed sort of foam mat, and I pulled my pack up to my waist and my parka over my shoulders. Ljubo and Tony had a thing like a Zladsky sack with 2 holes for your heads and nylon, but reasonably good cover. And Son, probably because he was a Navy diver or something, had a really flash vortex sleeping bag cover, so he dossed down beside me his bush cover, and the night it dropped about 6 inches of fresh snow on us. I just got out of my gear, still comfortable, and about to get up, and he rolled over, and all the snow came off, shot on top of me. Anyway, we then set off at about 7 o'clock in the morning, and we made our way up this couloir, and right to the top. We got onto the top just on 6 o'clock. There were 4 vertical ice steps. The smallest of them was probably not much higher than about twice the level of this, so we just had to reach up and think. But the big ones were really big. Ljubo was a beautiful climber to watch. He was like a ballet dancer. He just moved just a natural, easy way. Tony was like a bull. He couldn't even make his mind up whether to use the Juno or the Isaacs, and so he tried to do both. And you'd see him thrashing around. Then we were allowed to Juno up my fixed rope, which they'd leave behind for us two to come up, and that way they could get all the honours for the climb, which was fine with us. We just chugged up behind them and eventually arrived on top, straight up there. There was a big channel down the middle, about a metre deep for about 2 metres wide, that everything coming off the mountain would have come down, but fortunately because we had a good dump of snow and a good freeze to go with it, nothing came down that day. Otherwise it could have been a very unpleasant place to be. Mostly about 55 degrees apart from these vertical steps, and there's someone, I don't know if you can make it out there, but there's someone making their way up there, probably Tony. Ljubo had probably already gone up, and as I say, we were allowed to follow. And that was the medium-sized one. There was one about twice that big that Ljubo led, and we chucked up. We had a Chilean flag with us. We were immediately east of the northern Patagonia ice cap. We could see occasionally the cloud would lift, and we'd see some volunteer, a big volcano that pops up through the northern ice cap out to the sort of slightly south and west of us. So this is 6 o'clock in the evening. And back down the went, we did, according to Wikipedia, we did 16 double rope abseils, which gives us 800 feet of vertical height. That's not counting a little bit at the top. We put my snow stove and I sacrificed that at the top of the first snow pitch, and Ljubo had been telling me all the way up I wouldn't be okay going down because he had a bulkhead and a bolt hammer, and then we were going to pull all our anchors in like that. So I came abseiling down behind him, and he was standing there pointing around. He'd been banging away with this bulkhead, and he had another go, and I could see he was getting a bit knackered, so I said, here, give us a go. And the first swing I managed to smash the actual rock door clean off. Not used to that sort of thing. And that was the end of that story. We ended up leaving a lot of gear behind, a lot of slings, a few pitons, even a few what do you call them? And as I say, we went up. The last 2 abseils went necessary. I just clipped off, ran down the snow slope, back to the hut tent, got to the campsite at about probably close to 10 o'clock. When that fell south, the twilights are really long, and so I just grabbed my gear and bolted down the road we'd come up, and got back to camp about 10:30, close to 11, and lit a big fire, and they were all kind of chugging in between 9 and midnight. It was a great day. A couple of days later, Ljubo and I set off to try and climb Cerro Penon. We come up a side valley to this point, and then we worked our way up through here. We got to about here, and it started to snow, and it got bloody cold and miserable. We couldn't see anything, so we turned back. And then a day or two after that, we woke up, and there was a hard frost, and the stars were all green, and it was just beautiful. I said, come on, you guys, let's go do that. Oh, I'm a bit tired. I wouldn't get up. I wouldn't get out of bed. So I went all by myself. And I went back up our tracks to here, and then there's just a short little gully off to the right behind that knob, and that pops you up into that big snowfield I was showing you before, and you walk your way around onto the summit. There's a big pile of rocks up there, so probably that's been climbed quite often, and that's looking across from Cerro Penon towards Cerro Castillo. And then I discovered when I got to the top that there's a really large glacier running down. I just plugged my way back down it, hoping that I didn't find any crevasses that were just covered, and got back to camp and found Son had departed. He'd packed up and left, and he'd gone off to explore down towards Torres del Paine and that sort of. We had money and he had more time than us, so he was off, and that was probably a good thing. I've never seen anybody who would get out of bed in the morning and sit in front of the fireplace waiting until someone else lit it, because they just weren't able to do something for themselves. We got back to Patagonia. We went and stayed a little out at the school, and a couple of the teachers were heading up to Karaoke, so they gave us the lift. And then we flew to Patagonia, and we thought we had about 6 days to do something, so we wandered into the tourist office in Patagonia, and as luck would have it, there was a German deceit woman on duty who spoke good English, and she was very valuable, talked about 60 to the dozen. Her father had been a climber and had taken her out, and if we wanted something interesting to climb, we should go and climb Puerto Agudo. It is the most dangerous mountain, and it has claimed many lives, but it is the best climb around here. And you'd have to get up to Petrojuelo at the bottom of Lake Torres Los Santos, which is a bit ominous, the Lake of the Lost Souls. And then you have to get a boat up Torres Los Santos to the, I think it's called the Swiss farm, although I see in reference somewhere else a German farm. It's a dairy farm, and find a guide, and then you have to get yourself up onto the mountain. So we duly booked our bus tickets and discovered that the bus didn't run Sunday, Monday and Tuesday, so we only had 3 days in point of fact, maybe 4, to get ourselves up there and back. Now here's where we've had a lot of luck so far, but there's a young fellow sits down next to Tony behind me, and I'm beside Tony, and starts chatting. I said, I'm used to use on Boko, and then they both spoke fluent German. They were good lads, Snoop and Tony. When I was around camp with them, they always spoke in English, so they were included, which I thought was pretty. I can laugh at them for some of the funny things that happened, but that was a pretty considerate thing to do. And then we started nattering away in German, and by the time we got to Petrojuelo, this is Walter. Walter's uncle has the hotel at Petrojuelo. Walter is coming up to climb with his uncle, but his uncle can't get off for a few days, so he's coming with us. He has a boat, he has an outboard motor. He'll borrow some gear off his uncle, and he'll come with us. So we all piled into the boat. I took one look and thought, no oars, and made a bit of a fuss, and then went and found some oars. We got about 3 minutes up the lake and the motor died, so we paddled our way back, and he just toppled off and comes back with the separate and another motor, and that one worked, and got us up to the little jetty at the Swiss farm, and there's a fellow working on repairs, so Walter has a chat to him. And next thing we've got a guide, a one-eyed horse with a favourite hill, and loaded our gear onto the horse, and the guide sets us off. Now I only had about 1,000 peso note, and I was the bank at this stage, because they'd run out of readies, and so we gave the guy the 1,000 peso note. I only remembered this when I was looking at the letters I wrote to Glennis Slater just recently, but it was way excess of what they expected for the man, and so the agreement was that when we came out they'd give us a slap-up fee, and they'd come in later, and we set off through the spine. This is something that really caught my eye. We were busy making, what do you call it, silage. They were busy making silage, and these little kids, that little Jacob here and this girl, were managing these two cattle beasts with this pointed stick, and they were going out to where the silage was being cut, and the carting boat loaded at the back, and then it was being unloaded on the back of the barn and crushed down by horses riding back and forth, and then just like we make silage in New Zealand, putting a plastic sheet over the top and anchoring the edges, not with cartons. What struck me was that the wheels are solid stone. Yeah. Incredible. I was went to Peru later, and I thought going to Chile at that stage was like going back about 100 years, maybe 200. And going to Chile, Peru rather, and 8 years later, it was like going back to a time in the biblical times of about 1,000 years when you saw living conditions around. So we travelled up this track through the bush until we came into a zone where bamboo was the dominant industry, along really thick bamboo, and you wouldn't want to get lost in there. And then our guide said, right, the track ends here, and he shot through and left us standing there in the middle of this really dense bamboo forest. And Walter said, I can hear water, I will go and find out what's going on. And he disappeared into the bamboo and crashed around, and next thing he was shouting, and we followed on, and we popped out onto this riverbed. And the cloud level was about through the middle there, so we couldn't see what was above us or ahead of us. And it wasn't until next morning when we came out from a fairly uncomfortable night that we saw this thing. And this is Patagonia, which means roughly needle shape in Spanish. And we just trundled our way up the valley here, following the riverbed, boulder hopping, and got onto the snowfield. We climbed up the side here. That popped us on the big sort of shelf place here. And we wandered around the back to the north end of the mountain and found a choked crevasse. And just if you're interested in this sort of thing, this is Golnar, which was the dominant plant along the riverbank. And I can see why it's now considered a noxious weed in New Zealand, because it gets into our alpine waterways, it'll spread just like these ones do. They're very pretty. And eventually, about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we arrived at this crevasse and set up camp and found that this guy's collecting water off there. And just relaxed for a while, and then about 5:45, 5:30, we're looking at this beautiful, beautiful ice formation, and the sky is becoming full of cirrus, and cloud caps, little caps are forming over the top of a sauna, and all the other peaks nearby. And I looked at Walter, and we looked at the mountains and the sky, and I said to these guys, if we don't climb this thing tonight, we're not going to get it. We'll be washed off here, because we only had one more day, couldn't hang around. And so at 6 o'clock, they're gearing off for a week. We mustn't have given our enormous mistakes, there's not one there. And we climbed up the spur above our camp for as far as we could go, and this is me tackling something up about here, and then we knew that we couldn't take water up there. So we scooped off onto a sauna. This is looking west towards evening, which is just immediately west of us, this big flat road, big dome, beautiful thing. And we started traversing across. It doesn't do justice to it. The colour was beautiful. It was translucent blue green ice and great big stalactites and cascades. We were traversing across the snow slope because we couldn't go up that ridge any further. Walter's blue one there is, oh dear, you are so bloody, you will get us all killed. I'm too soft here, we'll have a lunch, the storm will catch us, and right here is not good enough for this climbing, it's all too tough, and then he goes round the corner over here, and oh, I am a happy man, he's jumping up and down and singing, because there's just a little shallow open couloir at an easy angle going right out onto the top. And there we are. And that's Torres or Santos, the lake in the background there. Don't know if you can see much of that. And that's Trinidad, which is at the head of Bariloche in Argentina, which is easily apparently climbed from there. But that was the story there. And then we settled into camp and the heavens opened and the winds from all quarters came screaming in, and we spent a hell of a night in that. And when we got up in the morning, the guy ropes was a tent about that thick with fish. The accumulated frozen rain basically. Ljubo decided he'd be a hero and sleep outside in his Artsky sack because there wasn't enough room for four of us in the tent. And about 3 o'clock in the morning, he came crawling back into the tent wet through and shivering like a dog and wet, looked pretty miserable. And we did a very rapid pack and a very fast descent across the snowfield. Once we got down into the valley, we had left the tent, the other tent, the SBI, in the valley where we'd come off the creek because we didn't want to miss our entry point. So we got to there and we picked up the track and back. And we got back to the Swiss farm and they turned on this magnificent field. Endless cups of hot, beautiful coffee, great big thick rashes of bacon, all the eaters that eat, and we just chomped away and chomped away. And Walter said, oh, my auntie has a cabin on the other side of the lake, we can go over there and break in. So we piled into the boat and chucked across the pretty stormy Lake Torres Los Santos, and sure enough, here's the cabin, hauled the boat up, broke into it. Had a comfortable night there, and by morning the storm had passed and we had a ride back to Petrify and took the bus back to town, and that was the third sort of instalment of our particular alpine adventures. This is the last photo of the series where we're on a train heading back to, we had about 3 or 4 days looking around in Patagonia before, and the family had taken me in. When we arrived back, took one look at the three of us and said, oh, there's a deep one, we'll take you out there. It was obviously too much for them to have these two Yugoslavs as well, so we returned to there and then got the train. Just after I've taken that photo, I go back into the cabin or the train and thought, hello, something nasty's happened. Ljubo and Tony were right down. I said, what's the matter? And they said, oh, the guy that's in charge won't give us tickets for our evening meals. It's 18-hour train journey and there's not many stops. He says because we've only got a pass, not a proper ticket, he won't give us our canteen vouchers. And so final big test of my Spanish, I sat there for about half an hour with a Spanish-English dictionary, and I came up with a whole set of questions. Hey, when you get past, ¿Por qué no comida con disputes? And pointed out to me on the way down, we'd had coffee and tea, and it was pretty miserable of the Chileans to deny us any sustenance, and he disappeared and came back and gave us all the things we needed for. All we really wanted was the cup of coffee in the morning, but we did manage, my Spanish did manage to get us a feed, and we got back to Santiago, and a couple of days later the guy that I went out to the airport ready to fly, and this guy came banging up and greeted me like a long lost friend. It took me a minute, and it was the taxi driver that had spent an hour or two travelling all over Santiago trying to find the president of the Alpine Club in his gated community on the way in, and he was so thrilled to see me, and I just thought that's pretty much sums up what I think of Chileans. They were wonderfully friendly people, looked after us really well, apart from the military. And the story. Thank you.
Well, Dave, that's a bit of a trip down memory lane, isn't it? And I do always remember you being, yeah, let's get out of bed and let's go and have a look at this one, or, and, oh, the mic, sorry, yeah. So certainly, switch it off, switch it on. Is that right? Yeah. So yes, certainly a trip down memory lane, and it was always exciting climbing with Dave because you never quite knew what he was going to come up with next. I think you decided after we'd done La Perouse and Dampier that a nice way to get out of the hooker was to go over the top. So that's what we did. We went and did a GT, which, if I recall, there was only 2 belays the whole way along. Was that the trip?
Yeah, that'd be right.
Yeah. Only 2, and I remember walking along on a, you know, on just being roped in a 2, thinking if one of us makes a mistake here, there's going to be some sad history. But very exciting travelling with you. New Zealand Alpine Club, you give us some real adventures because you reminded me that you know, applied to be the New Zealand NZAC rep on this trip to South America. I put my name down for one to go to the Munich Olympics, and somehow or another managed to, I don't know whether anybody else applied, but I think a couple of us went to that, and they took us climbing. It was in Munich, and then that was the Olympics where the Israelis were killed. So that was an incredibly sort of memorable event. Dave, you've absolutely amazed us, I'm sure. Maybe Glenys has learnt a few new things today about what happened over there, but you're so kind of understated in these adventures. They looked incredible, and it was fantastic that you got some really wonderful climbs and photos out of it. So thank you very much for a very, very interesting discovery of what's over there in South America, and congratulations on your amazing fortune, but also obviously very dedicated climbing.
I just wanted to...
I know you shouldn't do this, but I want to remind Stella about that GT, because we came onto the top of Cook and there was a party of 12 Japanese climbers descending the ice cap, and they left a staircase, a huge staircase, but then we all got trapped in Plateau for a night with a storm, and they came out at about 8 o'clock, 12 of them, and with a couple of support people, and they sang to us. And they sang, did you remember this?
No, you've got a better memory.
They sang these beautiful, beautiful harmonies for about an hour, and all we could sing back was waltzing Matilda. And Sukiyaki, which is not known on the lit parade. But then Stella and I made our way out over Semarama Coal and across the Ball Glacier, and as we emerged onto that, they used to still bring buses up as far as Bull Hut in those days, and as we emerged, I'll put this away from the mouth, but this American woman came belting over, "Oh, Harry, look at the climbers!" It was like we were some sort of exhibit from a zoo or something. "Can we take your photo? Harry, bring the camera over. Which one of all the Mount Cook? Which, do you climb Mount Cook?" Oh, go away. Just go away. She was the ugly American personified. And Harry had walk shorts on his socks and came and a huge cup and came wandering over to take photographs of the climb. He was just dutifully doing what he was told. What a contrast.
Well, Dave, when buses still went up to Garbage Gully, it's amazing the difference now.
Well, thank you very much, and Stella, you weren't on the program, but thank you for your comment. And I'd like to call on Nick Rose to say a few words.
I think the words have been said. Very good. Thank you, Dave, for taking me back to Koyaki and the delights of the Castillo range. It did bring back some memories. It's changed a bit. When were you there? 81 or 82? Yeah, I was there in 76. And we were there 3 months. It's a long story and I can't start boring you with it now. That's have to be another day. But a Kiwi friend called Tom Clarkson did a year at university where I was in Aberystwyth, mid Wales. And he produced a photograph of a lump of rock somewhere in South America, in Patagonia, and said, we tried to climb this last year, we didn't manage it, we're not rock climbers as New Zealanders, but you Brits are all rock climbers, so we're going to do it. Come along next year. So we organised this trip, and we went to, he was already over there, they'd come from New Zealand, that's right, we were Brits, and all he sent us was a postcard with the latitude and longitude of this village we were meant to meet sometime in mid-January. It's called Kaiaki. So we looked at a map and said, well, we can't afford to fly there, we're impoverished students. So we took we flew to Lima from Luxembourg, because that was the cheapest we could do. And we got Lima, oh, well, that's not far, we'll get down there, it's no problem. Of course, we get to Lima and discover actually South America's a great big place. It goes on forever. So it was 3 days on an old Greyhound bus to Santiago, where we got off and we had about another 2 hours, and then there was another bus going to Portimont. Straight away with almost no break, so on the other bus to Portimont. We get to Portimont and then we had to get a boat. I don't think there was any flying, and there was certainly no road in those days, so we took a boat, and there was a boat leaving an hour later, and we rushed through and we got through. It went boom, straight through, and we took 2 days, I think it was 2 nights, 3 days on a boat through the Chilean fjords to Puerto Arcen and then to Kaiaki. And we met within half an hour in Kaiaki. Someone said, oh, you're looking for New Zealanders, and they're staying with so-and-so up the road, camping in his garden, you know. So we all met up, and we had 3 months in Chile, and we saw one tourist. That was a very odd, sort of eccentric teacher from the Falkland Islands, who was the only non-Chilean that we met in 3 months back then. Pinochet was ruling the roost, 73. Very much so. And the week before we flew, Britain withdrew diplomatic relations with Chile over a torture case. So it wasn't a great time to be going to Chile, but actually it was in Patagonia because everyone was super friendly. And yes, we climbed lots of mountains, and I stayed for many months and went up to Peru and Ecuador and didn't get home for 9 months, I think. So that was quite a long trip. But that's another story. One day someone will twist my arm to do a talk here, but I don't know where to begin really. Anyway, thanks very much, Dave. It was grand to relive that place. And as the magazine here that the Chilean Alpine Club did a piece on our trip, because they discovered an unclimbed mountain actually had a little name on top of Tom Clarkson and Lockie Duff, who had climbed it in 1976. I think they were there in 1990. I think it was the first ascent, and they found a little plastic bag with a bit of paper and a little scribbled note, Club Andinismo or something, and the names. So the links, they contacted the Alpine Club, and it ended up with an article about us lot climbing in 1976 in that part of Chile. And it was a great part. And my only regret about the trip is that before we went, Tom and my friend Mike Searle were both Aberystwyth. They went to see another guy who knew that area, knew Patagonia quite well. He lived on the borders of England and Wales, and I was only climbing that weekend, but didn't bother. And the guy's name was Eric Shipton. And I did go and see him and discuss the last great wilderness, as he called it. So yeah, he always tell me those things. Okay, thanks very much, David.
Thank you very much, Nick. And again, thank you, Dave. We really enjoyed it. Just a reminder,